thank you for joining us. So this is going to be our first attempt on Planet TV to do a kind of informal conversation. And today joining us, we've got Jemma Davis. So Jemma, I think it's best if you start by giving us a little bit of an introduction into yourself and who you are and what you do.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be invited onto the first Planet TV escapade. So yeah, I'm Jemma. I am a security, culture and awareness consultant. Kind of been doing that for the last 3 years. And I guess my history is that I worked in marketing for many years, 10 or so years, and then ended up working with the security community and helping out with operations and incident response and looking at changing processes for the average human so that the average human could respond to a security incident. From that, realised that there was a whole bunch of stuff that just didn't sit right around security awareness. And most companies, if they're doing security awareness, are doing it to tick a compliance box. Now, in my opinion, and it might be a bit controversial, if doing compliance-based security awareness training worked, then there would be fewer data breaches. However, the kind of numbers haven't changed. It's still 1/4 of data breaches that can be put down to a human action or interaction. So compliance-focused training just doesn't work. So I've set out on a mission to change security culture. And I'm working with a number of companies to do that.
Perfect. So I think it's really a good place to start is obviously culture has changed massively in the last 7 weeks because we're changing the way that we're working. And for most businesses, this is a new way to adapt to the fact that we're not all in offices, we're not all sat together, and your security manager can't be sat over you checking what you're doing. So how would you say that the security culture has changed in businesses over the last 7 weeks? Have you seen a change?
So definitely, and let's not forget that this is the world's biggest transformation project, enforced transformation project, and people are scared. Cyber criminals are relying on that fear to get people to perform risky actions. And I think I read a stat last week that says 70% of the UK population are not used to working from home. A small percentage of us are used to doing it. Like, this doesn't change for me. I've been doing this for years. Nothing has changed in my world other than I am more busy than I used to be, which is excellent. So in terms of culture changes, there's a whole bunch of people who haven't had the freedom of remote working. And actually, remote working, it makes business sense to me. You're cutting overheads and things like that, but people were not prepared. There wasn't enough done in sort of business continuity planning to prepare our workforce, our staff, our people, our security teams to be able to handle this. So, as I said, it's the world's biggest transformation project that was kind of enforced. The clever people started a few weeks before, expecting that there was going to be some sort of change, but there's a whole bunch of businesses that were told you now need to shut, and they didn't have a plan.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of the cultural changes, there's a whole bunch of people, as I said, that are worried, they're scared, they're confused, they don't have a constant stream of communication. So what's changed for me in the last 7 weeks is a lot more, I guess, internal comms with the companies that I work for to make sure those security, working from home messages are reaching the mass audience. And that's not just a case of don't write down your passwords and make sure you install your updates. That's things like, how can I get IT support to help me when I work from home, and what infrastructure have they put in place for this new way of working? And a lot of companies have had to build new processes really quickly to handle the amount of remote working and remote desktop situations, to be able to handle the IT support queries that they're getting in.
Yeah, definitely. I think from one of our things that we saw with our customers was our MSP customers were they're used to it. They know how to deal with the working remotely and getting IT support, because that's what we do day in and day out. But our kind of accounts that we deal with in the wider world, they were really struggling with it because they're so used to having an office. They go bang on the door and say, my PC's not working or my laptop won't turn on, they've got someone there. That's a big cultural change for them to kind of get used to. I suppose it leads into, obviously, a lot of businesses are, they've started to go through phishing training and cybersecurity awareness training, usually through some kind of digital platform. But a lot of the time, these are driven by the fact that someone's there telling you you've got to do it. So, are you changing the way that you're delivering your training and awareness to your clients at the moment?
I'm not so much, because I'm going to blow my own trumpet. I believe that I do things in the right way for the right reasons. Now, there's probably many companies who, through resourcing or budgetary confinements, are doing what they can do to meet the needs of the business. Now, it's my belief that you should change behaviours and culture over an annual e-learning programme. Now, so I would imagine there's a whole bunch of companies that are coming up for their annual refresher training, and it's just not a priority because there are new ways of working. And actually, the programme that they've probably got in place doesn't deal with the new ways of working. So, and they'll be limited to the adaptations that they can make to the programme because of the modules that are available to them from off-the-shelf sort of solutions. Now, my view is that you should have a constant drip feed of information to your staff. You should make them a line of defence. They are your human firewall, and you can only do that through behaviour changes and cultural changes. And that is changing behaviours at home and at work, and getting them to talk about scams or best practice with their friends and family. And so that's my approach to security awareness, is the constant feed of information, and it has to be relevant to the person receiving the information. Now, the problem with this is quite often a security team will be the ones responsible for procuring a security awareness platform, and they are not representative of the general audience of a business. They may be highly technical, whereas if you've got 50% of your staff are call centre agents, they don't understand the technical sort of phrasing and jargon that sits within these technical platforms. So you need to look at your audience, which is the first thing that I do when I work with anyone, is look at the audience. What is the makeup of that audience? What sort of level of education are they? And build a platform or a program using an off-the-shelf platform that meets the needs of every user.
I think it's a difficult time, isn't it? Because people are more susceptible. The kind of human firewall, as you mentioned, that isn't there at the moment, because people don't feel like they've got the right information. People are so scared around what they're seeing, and they kind of are feeling everything they get is now important and needs to be open because I'm working from home. I've got to look busy. And I think we've seen a massive increase in the number of phishing emails that people are picking up, all focused around this kind of COVID-19, based on either web traffic or even the text messages telling you that you need to click and you've got a tax rebate available because of the current situation. Is there anything that you're saying to people to advise them about what they should be looking out for to know if this stuff's genuine or not? Is there anything kind of advice you can give to people on I suppose maybe just phishing in general, as well as kind of the current phishing threads that are happening?
There's been a huge increase in corona-related scams, and I forget the stat, but I did see something in the press recently that there's a huge amount of domains that are being spun up that with the word corona or COVID, and a ridiculous percentage of those are fraudulent scam websites that are malicious, that are trying to gain information from people or encourage you to click and download things, that then installing viruses on systems. Now, my advice is there's no such thing as a free lunch. You're never going to get free money. And be suspicious of most things, especially now. Morally, it's hugely wrong that the cyber criminals are kind of piggybacking on this, but it's not surprising that they are doing this. They rely on people's fears and uncertainties to get them to take action. So whilst we should be horrified. I think us in security kind of know that that was going to happen, and we probably should have prepared our people a little bit sooner that there was going to be a bunch of scams. So if anything feels too good to be true, a little bit odd, is not a normal way that someone would contact you. It's very rare that the tax office send you a text message saying that you're having a tax rebate. They don't email you. You normally get it through the post because that's the easiest and cheapest form of communication for them. So if it seems out of the ordinary, avoid it. And also just go direct to the source. Don't take the shortcut of clicking on links in texts or emails or on websites. Go direct to the source and see if the deal of a lifetime is actually existent on that site, if the government advice, they're updating their pages constantly, and the true information is at the source of that website. So go direct.
It's a good point to say, actually, because you think about it, the one thing that people generally don't think about when they think about phishing attacks is if there is going to be a mass tax rebate, that'll be all over BBC, it'll be over Sky News. You'd see it before you have those text messages come through. But sometimes people don't think, if you shove it into Google and say, is this real? And it doesn't give you a result straight away saying, yes, it is. It's probably too good to be true, isn't it? That's the side of things. I suppose that's really what we're trying to do. And I think the big focus for us as a business has been, it's about advising people how to be safe and how to adjust to this real world that we're living in now, where the new normal is sitting in your spare room, as I am, living your life. This is work for everyone now. So I suppose one of the things that we keep getting asked a lot is around high risk activities. So things that normally would have been done in a very controlled manner in a business. So bank transactions, paying bills, all that kind of stuff. Is there any advice you can give to kind of businesses around how we wrap up that kind of safety on high risk activities? I suppose because the human firewall of being able to physically hand someone something and say this needs paying, this needs doing, isn't there anymore. And every channel, even whether it's Teams, Zoom, whatever, there's always a degree of, is someone listening, is someone watching, is this a encrypted secure platform? So is there anything you can any kind of advice around that kind of how we conduct high risk business at the moment?
My advice very early on was work out your new processes and get them documented and make sure everybody knows what they are. It may be too late for some people. But I would question everything, because it's much faster to question, is this a legitimate invoice? Are you asking me to break normal processes? Than it is to remediate a situation that's gone wrong. Yeah. So while it's difficult to not have those face-to-face interactions and be able to ask those questions, now we're distributed, it's still really, really important to double check, because there's always going to be something that's outside of normal processes. There is when you're in a face-to-face interaction, there may be an urgent thing that you need to pay and transfers that you need to make, but having those face-to-face interactions with the CFO, for example, that they're authorizing that. You don't necessarily know from email. So always just double check. And anybody that's getting annoyed by these questions being asked, your people are protecting your business. They are being a line of detection. So don't be pissed off with them. Don't be annoyed that they're asking more questions. Be thankful that they're protecting your business by asking.
Yeah, I think our help desk manager said the other day, don't be stupid. If there's a process that you had in place when you were working in the previous, in your offices, the process was this form gets filled up, it gets past this person and past this person, then digitalize that process and make sure that there's checks and balances in place. Don't go, well, we're not in the office, so I'll just email you and tell you to pay that $100,000 to this company. It doesn't work. There's no point compromising your security, because we don't know how long this is going to last, and we also don't know what the new kind of way of working will be long term, because a lot of businesses, certainly high up in businesses, are considering whether working from home is a more approachable way to work long term now, because it's not, there's not a need to be in the office, because we've seen that a lot of businesses can work in the way that we're working now. I suppose that leads me on to kind of one of my questions, which is something that I keep getting asked and I don't really have an answer for at the moment, which is our customers keep sort of saying about how do we continue to drive awareness, can prevent users from falling foul of cyber attacks, and sort of develop that great security culture now that people maybe don't have the same working practices they always have. Is there something that we can do? Is there maybe a new way of doing it, I suppose?
So I would hope that businesses know who their people are, but I know the businesses don't know who their people are. There's very little in the way of audience profiling that happens for your internal staff. And I write about this a lot, that if you don't know who your people are, you can't influence change. So that's one thing to look at. Just go and find out from L&D or HR who your people are, and then you should know how to influence them. Now, if you look at, say, a call center environment where you will probably have an average age of around 25 with school level education, then unlikely to be a collective of people who have got degrees in psychology, for example. Now, those people, if you think about marketing to them, it's the same principle. They are a social media generation. So if you use your instant messaging kind of tools, whether that be Yammer or Slack, and create social media style content that is quick to digest, that is just a funny meme. It takes no time to put something like that together. You can do it free on the internet. Create branded bits and pieces and get that out there in a general channel. Then you're embedding that knowledge in a funny way that's appropriate to the audience. It doesn't need to be thousands of pounds in a security awareness program. Now, if you're looking at compliance, then obviously you need to be able to track an audit trail. But if your security awareness procedural documents are stating that you are using social media style posts or polls or quizzes or pushing out blog content, then that is way better for an auditor than, oh, well, we did an annual refresher course last week and 80% of people scored 80%, which is a nonsense metric. I mean,
Yes.
the kind of analogy I use all the time is, if I drove my car once a year, I would not be a safe driver. So why should, after 20 minutes of annual security awareness training, why would that make me a safe employee?
Sorry, it's that multifaceted approach, isn't it? It's not just saying, okay, well, we've got a security awareness program and it sends out phishing test emails every 7 days. That doesn't prove anything. That proves that someone knows how to look for your phishing templates. And as being someone who, we're a security company, it's on the end of what we receive. When they come out to us, I can spot what they are because I've worked with them long enough. I go, well, that's a phishing email test, so let's just bin that off. But that doesn't actually teach me anything, and I've not learned anything. I've not developed, because for someone in my job, there's a different approach to that training profile and that awareness, versus maybe someone who's working in an admin role or someone who is a salesperson. There's a different role there. There's a different set of training requirements. I think that is key to pick up. As we can't just go one size fits all and, oh, I've spent 20 grand on a security platform, that's going to fix it. I think what you're offering in terms of a wraparound in terms of that awareness piece is as important as going, okay, well, we've got this product, because the product doesn't solve the problems. It just gives you those metrics, really.
Yeah, and they're not even good metrics. I mean, they are completion rates, and that's it. And all you're doing is meeting your compliance requirements. You're not breeding a culturally sound business. So it doesn't make business sense when you can spend the same amount on something that just gives you the compliance tick box versus something that actually does give you that supplementary piece, that constant drip feed of information. And also on what you were saying around phishing simulations, whether you do a phishing simulation or not, what is important is what happens after that. And I know of businesses that are no longer running phishing simulations because they had so much downtime from their staff being so upset by clicking on something and maybe getting told off by their line manager, that they've stopped running these phishing simulations, because you have to consider the carrot and stick. And if you want to run these sorts of things successfully, then the you've clicked on something and it was bad needs to be an education piece and not a punishment. And if you have reported it and didn't click the thing, what is the reward that you get for being one of the champions of not clicking on stuff?
Yeah, no, I've seen businesses where they go, oh, we've got this phishing product, and what we're going to do is we're going to run it, and then anyone that clicks it 3 times, we're going to put them on a written warning. So, well, that's not the approach, because all you're telling people is be scared of computers, be scared of what you're doing. You're not saying, actually, this is what you need to be looking for, And this is how you stop it. This is how, as a business, we get better, because a lot of those templates are quite obvious to a degree if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
The things like this COVID-19 stuff is designed specifically to pull at your fears and your wants, and that's what we're going to keep getting. And this isn't going to go away, and things are going to continue changing. I saw one recently about your PPE masks. You can get those now and click this, thinking like, well, that's playing on a fear that we're being told in the media that we need to have those masks. So and then we don't want people to be scared of saying, is this right? And I think that's where the kind of culture piece for me is so important. I think something that gets lost maybe because we're an IT company and because of the way that that we work is you think you can fix everything with solutions, with products, but actually the people element is as important as the technology behind them. I think you can put all technology in place, but if your people don't feel empowered, we're not giving them the right tools.
Yeah. And actually, people are more motivated when you train them. They feel more loved, and it has to be a training that they sort of can engage with. It's not a punishment. It's these annual 20-minute. Now you're safe for a year. Nobody pays any attention. You gamify it because you click through as quickly as you can to get it over and done with, and it is a pointless waste of time. Other than saying yes, we did it, and Mr. Auditor, aren't we great? Now, if you look at this cultural stuff and you're doing things in the right way, then, as I said earlier, you start to change behaviours, and you have that secure front line that are somewhat suspicious, but are able to do their job. And the NCSE released a security awareness module. I think it was maybe last year, that's free for small businesses, and it's actually not bad.
Okay.
If you kind of bucket it together with some supplementary content, you can download the SCORM file. There's a web link, there's a little quiz, and I was reviewing it again yesterday because I remember when it came out and I thought, this is great. This would be perfect for charities or small businesses that don't have budgets to run these kind of programs. Now, one of the things that they mention in that course is if you are an individual taking a security awareness program and it means that you are no longer able to do your job because of the things that you've been told in this this course, like don't click on stuff, don't download attachments, and your job relies on you clicking on stuff and downloading attachments. For example, if you're in a finance team and you are sent invoices and you have to download those attachments, and we're telling you don't do that, don't download stuff, don't click on anything, you are now unable to do your job. So security awareness has to work for the people who are digesting it, and they can't have too many blockers in their way. A few years ago, I was working with a client who, when joiners started, they were required to read a policy and say, yes, I accept, I will follow this policy. And one of the new joiners point blank refused. I think he was in an analytics team, and said, I can't do my job if you are saying I have to abide by that policy. And there was no flexibility. There's no workaround, because that is to pass your probation, you must tick this box. And he couldn't do it. I mean, he could, but he would be in breach of that policy every single day. And this is where we don't do enough to help our people understand and react to situations that might be in their day-to-day life. We don't allow exceptions because it's hard to allow exceptions because there's a policy that says you can't have exceptions.
That's it, and it's that piece that we're really, I suppose, we're getting to, is that it's not just what you're doing, it's the policies that go around it, it's the people being trained to be able to use it, it's the right technical solutions. It's changing that culture, but it's, if you do one piece of that puzzle, the puzzle's still not finished. And I think businesses are very good at going, oh, we ticked a box, this looks great on paper, or I spent a bit of money here, that will do it. We've done some awareness training for the staff, we'll do that next year, that's fine. It's actually when you bring all that together, and I know that I get involved in a lot of policy writing, and you find that policies are very inflexible, and they also don't make a logical sense. If you're a development agency and it says you can't download things, you can't manipulate manipulate code, things like that, it's like, well, actually that doesn't make sense. Yes, it's a security best practice, or it's like it must be encrypted. It's like, well, I can't encrypt this because it's something I'm changing constantly. It's all this kind of, it's finding those soft spots and being flexible enough to make those changes. I think it's something that people don't really think about, and there's a much bigger picture there really to tie up to.
But also, if you look at policies for the average person, let's go back to, say, a 25-year-old, first job, just left uni. Are they going to read a 26-page policy and remember it and know how to apply that to their day-to-day life on day one of their employment? They've got no idea what the future holds. So how do you then make policy accessible to everybody in a way that you can take parts of it and apply it to your day-to-day world? And also, we expect users to review these policies annually, quite often, and tick the box. Again, how does that make me someone who's going to adhere to policy that's inaccessible to the majority of people? Because they don't read it. They'll scan through the 26 pages and tick the box at the end. I confirm I have read and understood this. It's the same as cookie policies on website. I accept all the cookies, but you don't know what that means. And if you go even a step further than that, this drives me absolutely insane, and I feel like I'm on this war against social media quite a lot of the time, because I'll go into it a bit further. But when you access an app or a quiz on Facebook and you tick to say, I allow this app to access my profile, regardless of the privacy settings that you have set on your Facebook account, you have just given it all away for free to find out what type of fruit you are. And people don't read these things, and nobody has developed policy, whether it's permissions to an app or whether it's your acceptable use policy. Nobody is developing policies in a way that is appropriate to audience. It's crazy.
It's the same. You get the same thing with Android apps, don't you? When you install them, it says, "Oh, we'd like access to everything on your phone." You're like, "Well, all I want you to do is play me this, this Candy Crush game. Why do you need access to all my contacts?" As well, so we can spam them with invites. It's, people don't think about it. And whilst we're on social media, I suppose the one thing that I'd like to touch on is around what's happening at the moment. Because people are bored, people are at home on Facebook. This social engineering piece where people are like, what's the name of your dog? What's the name of your mother's maiden name? They're basically giving away all of their security credentials on Facebook, and that, to me, that's a bugbear for me. And I feel like going to people and going, oh, "Thank you very much. I'm in your Lloyd's now." It's horrendous, and I don't understand how we've got to this point as a society where we're willing to publicise on essentially a public website everything about us.
So I've spent a lot of time thinking about this because I'm so angry with the world for doing this. And I think actually you and I are friends on Facebook. So if you go onto my profile, it is just post after post saying, please, for the love of God, please stop doing this. I saw a post a couple of weeks ago, and it was the new viral, throw all your personal information out there and hope no one hacks you. And it was, this girl had said, post a picture of your first car, closest year and colour. Brilliant. So I replied to her message, her post, and I said, "I'm sorry to gate crash. I really hope this is not your first car that you used for your memorable information, for your online banking, etc." And she came back and said, no, this is not actually my first car. And someone replied and said, "Why, what was your first car?" And she wrote it right there and then. So it is ridiculous. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about why people are doing this. And I have come to the conclusion of, people know they shouldn't because we tell them, but they don't care.
Yeah. And
the reason that they don't care is because they don't understand the what. So what? So what if you it's all bits of information here, there, and everywhere. But if you look at open source intelligence, and when you're gathering information on one person, this person who had posted a picture of not their first car, but then told everyone what their first car was, had also screenshotted their eBay profile, and it had their eBay username at the bottom. So now I've got your eBay username. They also had done a quiz on 26 things you don't know about my husband. So now I know a lot of personal information, and here's 40 things that you've never known about me. And this was all within one day. I scrolled through their profile and was like, I believe you to be a reasonable human, and why are you doing this? Now, all you need is the slightest piece of information if you are a cyber criminal. And you can take down someone's world. But I think until the average human puts all of those things together without being targeted, they're not going to understand. And I think that's a failing on my behalf, on security team's behalf, is we tell you you cannot do things. You can't click stuff. You have to have a 14-character password and you have to change it every 90 days. And we make security hard for people without explaining why or so what. What happens if you put all of these pieces of information together, and what is the consequence for you, and how bad is it going to be? And it cannot be a hypothetical situation.
No, I think you need some high-profile, real-world cases of it, and then people will start to go, "This doesn't make sense." I've had it with family members, and you say, like, "Why have you put that online?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's nothing." And like, "Well, great. Well, just tell me, are you using any of those for your banking?" "Oh yeah, one of them." "Okay, you're using any of those for remembering reset, on any of your stores like eBay?" "Oh yeah." Well, suddenly people have got the ability to, with a little bit of work, to get through that stuff. And I've seen it before with people taking photos where they've got bank cards or bank statements in the background. You're like, well, we know what bank you're with. Suddenly it becomes an easy thing to unravel. And especially in this world, all you need to be able to get into is someone's email, and then you've got the key to everything, because everything now is password reset via email. Very few platforms do multi-factor authentication for protecting that. So we have to be careful. And I think people forget that we need to be careful. They think at work we need to be careful, but in our personal lives, no one's coming after us. But actually, sometimes your personal information is probably worth more than the business information, because it's easier to get access to your money, to get access to to goods, to buy things in your name. And we've all seen it. It used to be mail fraud, people stealing your cards before they came in the door. But now it's much more sophisticated. Now it's just about polling information from people. And like you said, most of the people that are triggering these kind of "what is your first car" conversations are probably doing it in a naive manner, but there will be someone down the line that started all of these kind of longer lists, these 40 things, because they want that information, and it's gonna be something they can backfill into their product, and they can then start selling onto on the dark web, onto cyber criminals, saying, "Oh, I've got all this information about all these people and all these email addresses that we've already had that have been leaked from elsewhere. Go fish."
And I make a joke of it that no one will steal my identity because they bring it back pretty quick. It's not worth having, but it actually is worth having. And when you think, if someone could get into my PayPal or email account and sell that on the dark web, I think it's something like $8 you can buy a login for someone's PayPal account. Now, that's not just when it's gone, it's gone. You don't just put those login details out there and it's sold to the highest bidder. Those are available to thousands, millions of bad people that want to do harm. And it's not that they're directly targeting you, they're targeting anyone who might be of financial gain to them. So it's worth the investment to go and buy these login details.
Yeah, if you buy 100,000 of them and you manage to get in with 10%, you're still making good money, aren't you? That's the big scary thing that people don't think about. And it's so difficult to get money back, especially when they've come in through known methods, because it comes back to you. And that's the same in the business world as in the personal world. Is your cyber insurance is a business versus your personal insurance will only cover you for things that you're doing the right thing. If you're doing stupid behaviors, then they're gonna flag that, and they're gonna say, well, why would we protect you for doing the wrong thing?
Yeah. Now, I don't want to get into the debate around 2FA and SMS-based 2FA, because I believe any 2FA is better than no 2FA. However, if you think of the average human's Facebook account, it gives you the option to publish your email address to anyone. And if you haven't locked that down, that's available to the world, not just your friends, anybody. It also allows you to publish your phone number to anyone in the world. And I don't think people are aware of SIM swapping and how easy it is to actually get somebody's phone number ported onto another SIM card. Now, imagine if you had posted your email address and phone number on Facebook, and a bad person was looking at that, and they then had your phone number, were able to swap that number onto their own SIM, and you had 2FA enabled. Your email address is there. You go into Hotmail or Gmail or whatever. I've forgotten my password. Okay, we're going to send you a code to your this phone number. the attacker's got that number on a SIM card. They've just had access to your front door of everything. And then as you go through your online accounts through that email and reset my password, okay, we'll email it. That email is now in the hands of a bad guy. So this is why it's really important for people to understand, just don't put that stuff out there. And when you're giving apps permission, they've got permission to do bad stuff with your information. And this, I always say, it should be as secret to you as your most embarrassing underwear. Like, don't put it out there. You're not going to post your washing day pants on Facebook, so don't post everything else on there.
And the thing is, he's coming back to that SIM swapping piece. I've actually been on the wrong side of that. So in short terms, I was going through an upgrade process with my SIM provider. I used their online web chat. Turns out that wasn't very secure, and someone was watching it. And as soon as I put my mobile number in to say what number I was upgrading, my number stopped working. And they ported the number almost instantly to their phone, so that when I did the authentication to say, okay, text me and I'll do the upgrade, and then they send you the address and all this stuff. They were in the middle of that, and they were able to try and intercept it. Now, luckily, being who I am on my phone all day, I went, my phone's not working, so I then stopped talking about the upgrade and started whinging my phone wasn't working. But if you didn't notice that, that's a really easy way for them to hemorrhage off thousands of pounds worth of mobile devices, which essentially, because they've never been activated, are devices that they can easily wipe, easily move on. And you think they've only got to do that 2 or 3 times a day. If it's an iPhone and it's £1,200, £1,300, they suddenly in the money, and it's not cost them anything, because the SIM duplication stuff is very simple. And again, it's something that on the dark web is purchasable and requires very little skill to operate.
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely a risk. I suppose that for me, we could probably talk all day, to be honest. But I think what would be really good is we'll probably close this one off now, and then I think we'll probably do this again in the future. I think that when I put this out, we'll probably get some people asking some questions. And I suppose the thing to say on this is, if anyone does want to speak to Jemma and get some information, then Gemma's details will be on the screen. If not, you can contact your Planet account manager, and they'll put you in contact, and we can find a way to make that piece work. That the time, the culture, the awareness up with the solutions. It's not always about buying the solutions. It's maybe about training those people. Let's find the right solution. But thank you very much for your time, Jemma.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.